Hello, my name is Trace Mac, and this is my rig for Maya joints. In this, I'll look over uh, the capabilities of the rig, the advantages, disadvantages of the rig, and also the advances I made to this rig. So first off, this is the hip controller. It controls the hip. It can twist, much like in Max, and this is the chest twist controller. Again, much like Max, and this is the mass controller. And again, like Max, instead of being over here, it's over here, and the difference is you can move the whole rig with this. So it's much more easier to control and move. Okay, let's go over the advances. So like before, this rig is arcade. So you can move. Like Max gives you same control, same capabilities of placing the feet wherever you want, and also like Max, it has a foot control where you can use this to create uh, walk cycles and just give you better control in general of how you want the foot to move or rotate. Uh, the advances that this has over Max is the pole vector, where you can decide where and give you better visualization and control on how you want the leg to rotate. Also, if you transforming things to zero, it's much more simpler, where you just have to go up to the tab, turn to 0. So it gives you much greater ease for the whole rig to put everything back to 0. Moving back on to from IK and FK, so you can move the FK and go back to here. You can switch to IK, and like Max, you can move it and it deforms pretty nicely as well. But also it has a pole vector, so you have much more control even here of how you want the arm to rotate. And there's also an FK and IK snap, and you just simply have to go here and match IK to FK, and there you go, the FK followed the IK, and if I go here, follows on. The advantages of this is that it's much more easier to set up, I think, and also that the pole vector gives you much better rotation and access to the arm rotation. Now to the face. The face, you can move the head, rotate it, and unlike Max, I implemented something called blend shapes, where you can. It's pretty much a much more advanced morph target, and it's much more easier to use since there's an actual slider. So it's much more easier to create expressions, surprise faces, eyelid movement blinks as well. But not only that, it's much more customizable, as like here, if you want a smile, you can also create one side of smile, or in between for the same exact smile, or the other side for different expressions. And not only that, it's like you can also use this for facial expressions. So yeah, so you can use this for it's a much more easier to handle version of like mouth movement, and you can create mouth animations with this as well. It's like Max, but I find it much more accessible to use, and also it's much more easy to create, and you can pull off a lot more with this, I think, as well. I also want to show the eye controllers, where these control the eye movements, and as you can see, it's very subtle since the eyes aren't textured and you can't really see the edges, but these control the eye movements, and these are the eye trackers, and they're also linked to the head, so they follow the eyes. just to show, as you can see, it's on rotation, and when you move the eyes, rotation is different, just to show that it is that the eyes do move. It's just it's just that since they're not in edge mode or textured, you can't really see them that well. But yeah, as I was saying, yeah, the reason why I opted for this instead of blend modes, because in past experience I found that using blend shapes for the eyes aren't really that consistent, and that eye track is actually a much better option since you can directly control where the eye is looking. So that's much more easier, so that's why I opted for this instead. But this is mainly just to show that you can use eye movement, and it does work well with blend shapes, and you can get some different looks and expressions, and so that you can have something like the eye movement where the expressions can change, and it gives a similar thing to the Max's eyelid movements, and you can do that here as well. Just to go back onto legs real quick, yeah, you can stretch out the legs. This was done by getting a locate and putting in an expression, but this is really good since you can basically stretch out and make more exaggerated features, and also gives animators to let loose and make deformations that are much more easy to do and aren't limited just by the mesh itself. And here's how the full setup looked. I decided to move everything since I thought that I'd just show the bare essentials and show what it looks like. But as you can see, it looks like a much more full rig from here. Uh, like I said, the advantages of doing this are that this rig is that it's a little bit more advanced with the stretch legs, the pole vectors, and also the IK-FK setup. I think is a little bit better. But also the things you can do is a lot more expressive and gives the animator a lot more to do with the facial expressions. So I think that Maya is a little bit more advanced than Max and also a lot easier to use. I think those are the advantages. With that said, and also the advances are that, you know, the stretch legs and the blend shapes. But with that said, the disadvantages are that it is a little bit more rough than the max version, where the rotation doesn't really work properly on the twist, and you have to rely on this as well. And also sometimes, and it does look a little bit more rough in certain areas as well. But I think overall it's a much more complete, not complete, but experimental and out there rig. And the only difference here was that I'm pretty much new to rigging in Maya, so with a little bit further time and practice, I can create something a lot better.